We're about to send the colorful metaphors out of some Star Trek, but believe it or not, we at CinemaSins actually love Star Trek.
So much so that we made a new CinemaSins podcast called Captain's Pod.
A show where the CinemaSins crew can review, sin, and talk about everything Star Trek.
So whether you're new to Star Trek, a lifelong Trekkie, or anything in between, join us on the USS Enterprise by searching for Captain's Pod or CinemaSins in your podcast player of choice.
Until then, enjoy the video and live long and prosper.
Having a backward R and E in your title because you think it looks cool. Let me assure you, it does not.
Senators, consider the opportunities for the Empire.
Sci-fi properties, starting with Star in this period, really thought their audiences were just horny for some hardcore Senate negotiating, didn't they?
The military does not dictate policy on Romulus.
Balance of Terror, The Defector, The Enterprise Incident, In the Pale Moonlight, and Face of the Enemy have all ended the chat and opened fire. Also, how have we had 9 Star Trek movies before this one that didn't have f***ing Romulans involved in the main storyline? We had the goddamn Sona and Baku before we had the Romulans. And you might mention that there is a Romulan in Star Trek V, and I would then ask you, what is Star Trek V? Because that movie does not f***ing exist. Look, I get this would catch most people off guard, and they wouldn't really know what to do, but not one goddamn Romulan thinks to get up and run? Why does this movie hate the Romulans? Also, this little gadget will subject everyone to a Thanos dusting, but how the hell did that lady Romulan get it in here? This guy is basically the Romulan president. Somehow security didn't search this person, or they did and didn't ask what the f*** this thing was.
Would someone alert security?
This hasn't been done yet?
Shut up.
Yes, sir.
15 years I've been waiting to say that.
What a dick. Barely waited 15 seconds before saying it to poor Wesley over here.
Shut up, Wesley.
These wine glasses that force the back of your skull to touch your spine if you want to finish your drink.
I take it that there will be no speeches during the ceremony on Beta Z.
No speeches and no clothes.
This wedding isn't currently taking place on Beta Z.
Blue skies smiling at me.
Movie has time to show us what jukebox technology looks like in the 24th century.
I do not think it is appropriate for a Starfleet officer to appear naked.
Oh, come now. Big, handsome, strapping fellow like you? What can you be afraid of?
I think Picard totally just implied Worf has a small penis on the bridge in front of all his friends and colleagues.
Captain, I wouldn't recommend using the transporter. That ion storm doesn't look very neighborly.
Surprise, the transporters aren't working. Honestly, Geordi would be better off ejecting all the transporter rooms and saving the weight as soon as those opening credits roll.
I've been itching to try the Argo. I'll bet.
I mean, fine, movie, do what you want, but there's nothing I've seen from 7 seasons and 3 movies of TNG that tells me Picard is in any way interested in speeding around the desert in a buggy Mad Max style.
There's no foreseeable danger.
Jinxing yourself.
You have the bridge. Mr. Troy?
It is the year of our Lord 2379, and this somehow is still a chuckle-worthy insult. The Argo is one of the most pointless vehicles to ever pointlessly pointless in a Star Trek film. The kindest thing I can say about it is that it gives me a rare opportunity to quote Lester Siegel and say, Argo, f*** yourself. Taking a great jump scare from Carrie and making it a terrible jump scare in Star Trek Nemesis.
It appears to be a robotic arm.
Very astute.
Worf would bring great honor to the House of CinemaSins. Also, was the arm programmed to grab the first leg it saw? Because right now, it's just wiggling its fingers, which is very different from the leg groping it just pulled off a minute ago. All of these parts being easy to find does factor in later, but also with this big an area to cover, it's still super convenient they're able to just walk right up to them so quickly. How did Shinzon think they would find the underground arm?
This doesn't feel right.
But I will ignore that very appropriate instinct and carry on regardless. Good job, Worf. Keep firing the laser gun at the
Pre-warp civilization at an early stage of industrial development.
I'm sure that isn't breaking any directives. Good job, Daddy. Keep flying that spaceship right past the
Pre-warp civilization at an early stage of industrial development.
I'm sure that isn't breaking any directives. Nope.
You know, all things considered, Data, I think you have nicer eyes.
This is the most profound line Beverly has in the entire movie.
Our eyes are identical, Doctor.
Well, I don't see how that's possible, considering how regularly yours seem to have changed, my android friend.
I'd say he's a prototype. Something Dr. Soong created prior to Data.
Going into the past and retroactively inventing some shit that didn't happen until you wrote this script to make your movie more compelling cliche.
Why does the tall man have a furry face?
Disrespecting Geordi's equally furry face.
Geordi, reassemble him.
Reassembling the android with super strength and the mind of a child.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
The computer woke up this morning and chose violence by replicating Picard, thin air, in a cup.
Admiral Janeway.
Oh, so it's Admiral Janeway, is it? Apparently getting lost on your first command and being out of the loop for 7 years immediately qualifies you for a nice desk job.
How'd you like a trip to Romulus? You were the closest ship.
The Enterprise just happens to be the closest ship in range cliché, which is super weird considering they're on top of the neutral zone.
New Praetor.
There's more. He's Riemann. Believe me, we don't understand it either.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm just glad you guys hadn't heard of the Riemans until now either.
The Sona, the Borg, the Romulans.
I appreciate the effort, Star Trek Nemesis, but there is no chance in the Alpha Quadrant we will ever believe the Sona are on the same level as the Borg and the Romulans.
I still can't believe the captain went along with the memory download.
That's because you're used to TV Picard, Geordi. What we have here is movie Picard, who seems hell-bent on making criminally negligent command choices at every opportunity.
If my memory engrams are successfully integrated into his positronic matrix, he should have all my abilities.
Sure, let's reactivate the android with super strength in the mind of a child and download 40-odd years of Starfleet knowledge and experience into his body, all while we take a quick trip across the neutral zone to meet one of our most deadly adversaries. There's just no way this can go wrong.
But he would also have all of your memories as well. You feel comfortable with that?
I feel nothing, Geordi.
Instead of wrestling with the complex subject of another being holding all your memories and experiences, Data feels nothing. Mainly because Star Trek movies seem more interested in ejecting warp cores than they are in actually dealing with interesting philosophical questions like the good Lord Roddenberry intended.
Geordi, what purpose does this serve?
Data spots something sketchy on the android they found in a desert near Romulan space, but decides, nah, it's probably cool.
Diplomacy is a very exacting occupation. We will wait.
Captain.
Worf, Riker, Data, Deanna, and the ship's computer all wait for Picard to finish his sentence before alerting him to the big ship decloaking in front of them.
She's a predator.
Based on this movie and the entire Predator franchise, movies do not understand what a predator is. I'll let Olivia Munn take it from here.
That's not a predator, that's a sports hunter.
Does this motherfucker not know where his camera is? Or did the call take him by surprise? Also, discount alien Ron Pearl. Holy sh**.
Away team, transporter room 4.
And apparently around 80% of the senior officers are going on the away mission. Can't wait to see Ensign Blah Blah save the day later. No one will be seated while Picard and company stand in a dark corridor and wait for a door to open.
Captain Picard. Jean-Luc Picard.
I'm not sure what this accent is that Tom Hardy is attempting, but it is definitely, well, an accent, I guess.
You may scan me without subterfuge, Commander Data.
Mainly because the thing you're trying to covertly scan him with is more obvious than a million crickets snapping 2 million glow sticks.
Come to dinner tomorrow on Romulus. Just the two of us. Or should I say, just the one of us.
Shinzon lays on the clone references so thick I'm amazed he doesn't end each one by raising his pinky to his mouth and chuckling. Good thing Data and Riker are here because Worf, the goddamn security officer, doesn't even flinch when Shinzon pulls this knife on the captain.
I think you'll be wanting this.
With 24th century technology, there should be plenty of ways to extract DNA without exposing yourself to all the many forms of alien tetanus that would result from this unnecessary stunt. You're his clone, Shinzon. He knows exactly how big your d is.
We supported you, Shinzon, when you assassinated the Senate.
So, not only have the angry Vulcans allowed the Riemans to take control of Romulus, they've let a group of Riemans led by a human take control of Romulus? It's just about the most un-Romulan plan I can think of, short of electing Worf president of Romulus.
I don't understand why now you delay.
Because Shinzon has clearly seen all the Bond films, and so he understands the necessity to talk to the person you are intending to kill several times before actually killing them, and that always works out in favor of the villain.
You are not a woman. You are a Romulan.
That's Romulanist? Womanist? Womanulist. It's wild to me that Picard and crew didn't notice the insane similarity of them finding another version of Data right before they met up with another version of Picard. No one thought Shinzon might have something to do with the thematic symmetry?
The Romulans had somehow gained possession of your DNA, and I had been created. And when I was ready, they were going to replace you with me. But a Romulan agent, the heart of Starfleet.
What happened?
Rick Berman decided this storyline wasn't a good idea for a TV series, but a few years later thought it was a great idea for a movie?
A new government came to power. They decided to abandon the plan. They were afraid that I might be discovered.
And instead of killing you, as we know the sneaky Romulans would, they put you on a moon as a coal miner?
In those terrible depths lived only the damned. Together with the Riemann slaves, I was condemned to an existence of unceasing labor and starvation.
Tom Hardy playing a bald character with a weird accent that was raised in a pit of hell and has returned to exact his revenge feels so damn familiar. You know it'll be the bane of me, but I can't figure it out.
I want to know what it means to be human.
Oh, goody, another Data in a movie that has already given us another Data.
Captain, we have had an unauthorized access into the main computer.
Source.
It's gonna take some time to figure that out, Captain.
Sure, but is it that hard to guess? Wouldn't it be a good idea to apply Occam's razor to the head of that off-brand android you just picked up first?
When the scimitar decloaked, there was a momentary spike in the tertiary EM band.
Not the tertiary EM band! What the f*** is a tertiary EM band?
You're not gonna believe this. It's Thaleron.
Not Thaleron! What the f*** is a Thaleron? The director said instead of giving this Riemann a name, give him a big unnecessary staff topped with a Riemann apple so the audience knows how much of an asshole he is.
Remember him?
No, but I do remember this guy who we thought was young you until Tom Hardy appeared. Don't worry, that picture will look like James McAvoy by 2011.
Is he very much the way you were?
Oh, yes.
But how can that possibly be true? Yes, he's a clone, but he's spent his entire life in a brutal mine being starved and tortured by Romulans. What sort of f***ed up shit happened to 20-something-year-old Picard if they're that similar?
As ship's counselor, I recommend you get some sleep.
As ship's counselor, shouldn't you also have been advising the captain on how to process the complex feelings of being faced with a clone of himself from DNA that was stolen from his body?
Transport.
This ends up being Data, which is why the Enterprise doesn't react to him being kidnapped. But shouldn't Shinzon think it's weird that the Enterprise didn't react? Surely he can't just beam people off the ship without even the computer noticing, right?
Tea. Hot.
The Riemans also apparently have replicators that always know when you're talking to them. Neat!
I've become a liability. I request to be relieved of my duties.
Permission denied. If you can endure more of these assaults, I need you at my side.
Just to be clear, Picard says endure more of these assaults, but what he's actually saying is, can you endure more mind rape? I just want to make sure we're all aware of how incredibly f***ed up that request is, and no one, not even her husband, objects to it.
I've now gained access to Starfleet's communications protocol. I now know the exact location of your entire fleet.
Look, this B4 plan is insane! Somehow Shinzon managed to find an android identical to Data that no one knew existed, booby-trapped it, scattered it on a desert planet in Federation space, and hoped that someone, ideally the Enterprise, gets close enough to find it. Then he has to bank on someone being dumb enough to reassemble it and give it free reign of the ship so it can download the locations of all the ships in Starfleet, and it nearly worked!
It amazes me how little you know yourself.
I am incapable of such an act.
He might very well be. They wanted to make sure they got a clone of someone that was perfectly okay with the destruction of entire species. They should have cloned Janeway.
So look in the mirror. See yourself.
Making us realize that a Mirror Universe movie would have been a much better idea than this movie.
This entire ship is essentially a Thaleron generator. Its power relays lead to an activation matrix on the bridge.
Fortunately, Shinzon gave B4 free reign of the entire f***ing ship, so that Data could not only collect information about its most sensitive areas, but also return to free its captain. I'd think Shinzon would be just as likely to tear B4 apart once he was finished with him.
Move, puny human animal.
Why would anyone on this ship believe that Shinzon put the android in charge of escorting the prisoner anywhere? It's a good thing that this code pad doesn't lock you out after a few failed attempts, isn't it? Also, Data tries to decode this door code thing, but considering his captain is currently under fire, why is he typing so slowly? We've seen how fast he can type. He's not even using two hands. To be clear, the species that Shinzon bragged was bred for war and conquering have been outmaneuvered by a dual-wielding 60-year-old in pajamas. Is this phaser sealing the door? How did it know the Riemann phaser would have a sealing the door setting?
Data, what do you imagine this is?
Port thruster, sir. Would you like me to drive, sir?
Picard gives Data an incredulous look, which means that he doesn't want the android with reflexes of lightning to pilot their escape ship. I really don't think Jean-Luc should be captain anymore. He's making some insane choices. Incredibly convenient that not a single fucking Riemann soul is working in this huge fucking shuttle bay, isn't it?
Do you think this is a wise course of action, sir?
We're about to find out, Data.
The relative success of your ridiculous stunt does not make it any wiser after the fact. Probably Spock. Probably to Kirk. Luckily for Picard, these ship corridors are wide enough to fly a smaller fucking ship through. What the fuck is going on?
He's not planning to defeat Earth. He's planning its annihilation. And his sins will mark us and our children for generations.
I think you mean our sins, ma'am. And we've already covered generations. Try to keep up.
Do you know anything about Shinzon's plans against the Federation? No.
Does Data really think verbally asking him will work? Can't they just download it from B4's brain if it's in there?
A long time, brother.
Between the deactivation of lore and potentially B4, I'm starting to think Data might be the mean brother.
He's going after Earth.
Destroy humanity. you cripple the Federation.
Do you know? The Federation isn't just Earth. Sure, that's where a lot of humans are, but if your galactic cooperative falls to shit because one bomb planet, it's not really a cooperative, is it?
No way of penetrating his cloak. No. So he could pass within 10 meters of every ship in Starfleet and they'd never know.
Okay, hold up, because that makes Shinzon's B4 plan even more f***ing insane than I thought it was. Earlier, Shinzon said,
I now know the exact location of your entire fleet.
why go through that ridiculous plan with B4 to get information that you don't even need? You don't need to know where the ships are if you can pass by them all unnoticed. That plan was insanely complicated and unnecessary. All that effort so you could kill off Data while still giving us the opportunity to bring him back. This movie is so f***ing dumb.
Initiate the force field.
It only took 37 years of Star Trek before some genius finally decided to put a force field around the f***ing warp core.
It's interfering with our uplink from Starfleet cartography.
The rift affects all long-range communication.
And you're only thinking about this now? You're hightailing it out of Romulan space to join a fleet of ships to get ready for war, and nobody thought that a big-ass cloud that prevents you from communicating with said ships would be an issue?
Can you learn to see in the dark, Captain?
What the f*** was that? Was that meant to be intimidating? What happened to cry havoc? Or he tasks me? Or do the Remans not have access to Shakespeare in the original Klingon?
Get the shields online, Geordi.
I'm already on it.
Actually, no, you were just standing there. Why weren't you already f***ing on it?
You can't trace my holographic emitters, Captain, so don't bother.
But how would Shinzon have holographic emitters on his ship that can make him appear on the Enterprise? And if he's just a hologram, how is he f***ing sitting down in the captain's chair? Don't give me some shit about him sitting in a real chair that exactly matches Picard's chair, because that is an unnecessary amount of preparation for this f***ing do you surrendergram.
I can clearly destroy you at any time. Lower your shields and allow me to transport you to my ship.
If you can destroy them at any time, why haven't you just wiped out their shields and beamed Picard over? Why the f*** are you wasting time negotiating? Don't all Romulan warships have cloaks? Why aren't they cloaking as well?
Full stop. Fire!
So Shinzon's plan was to come to a full stop and let the Romulan warbird approach them firing and potentially destroying his ship. But on the off chance they didn't destroy his ship, he would then start firing again and destroy their ship? I'm not sure how any of that gave him a tactical advantage, but I guess boring space battles are better than people having boring conversations about humanity.
Captain, I think I may have a way to find them.
It could potentially cause them to assault my mind even more, but you seemed super okay with that aspect last time we talked, so might as well give it a go. These wobbly ears. Dramatic highlighting of drama. So Deanna is reaching out with her mind to take advantage of the psychic link that the Viceroy Hellboy created. But how is the brain turning that into coordinates in space?
Fire at will!
Why weren't you already firing at will?
Intruder alert!
I'm kind of shocked that after all these years, the Enterprise doesn't have internal pew-pews that can zap unwanted intruders.
Security detail to Deck 29.
Deck 29? 29? Back in First Contact, we seen that Picard seemed to think the ship only had 24 decks, and one of his lieutenants said there were 26. Why and how did they add another 3 decks? Or why are there now 5 decks that Picard doesn't f***ing know about?
Worf, cover me.
Picard's number 1 fights Shinzon's number 1, because that's how fights happen in real life. Also, Worf sees exactly where Riker goes, but decides not to follow him, and just leaves him to fight the giant Reman on his own. We are on the f***ing bridge. That should not be possible. The bridge should be buried in the guts of the ship, or at the very least, not next to an external f***ing bulkhead. Also, Discount Nero still needs Picard's blood, right? How the f*** could he guarantee blowing the bridge wouldn't kill Picard? Also, Part 2, The Wrath of Also. The emergency force field decided to pad the casualty list, up the drama, and or let the vacuum of space clean the bridge before finally kicking in. I'm beginning to think the Enterprise doesn't like these people. Don't do it. Don't you let Deanna drive the ship. She broke the last one and she'll do it again. Playing chicken with spaceships. Seatbelts! Picard most likely just unnecessarily killed a lot of people in the Enterprise, but you know, cool thing you did with the ship, I guess. The Enterprise survives this.
Computer, stand by auto-destruct sequence Omega.
Auto-destruct is offline.
I don't know, guys. I feel like that's one of those systems that just shouldn't be able to go offline, right? Like, can't you just take a hammer to the warp core? That thing is always on the edge of breaching anyway, and that shield lasted all of 2 movie minutes.
Then set a course for Earth.
Set a course for Earth? I have no idea how warp travel works, but I'm pretty positive that having a big-ass hole in the front of your ship is frowned upon.
Deployment of targeting arms. Commencing.
Looks like Picard crashing the Enterprise into the Scimitar broke all the parts of the ship except the parts he really needed it to break.
How long until he can fire?
The targeting sequence should take about 7 minutes, Captain.
I love how this is a brand new weapon that was believed to be just a theory, but Geordi can pinpoint the launch sequence to an extremely specific 7 minutes, which happens to be the perfect amount of time for Picard to save the day and Data to rip off the Wrath of Khan.
That's it. Transporters are down.
Of course they f***ing are. Rumor has it Tom Cruise is going to recreate this stunt shot for shot in Dead Reckoning Part 2. This movie asks the important question, did audiences want to see 2002 Patrick Stewart fight 2002 Tom Hardy? And the answer was no. No, they did not. Fortunately for Picard, Shinzon appears to have skimped on whatever contractors he used to decorate the bridge. Interestingly, Shinzon decided to stop bleeding while he dragged himself down this spike. Goodbye. This movie kills Data. Picard's probably thinking, man, I wish I'd kept this transporter gizmo when Data foreshadowed it to me earlier in the movie. I could have just set my phaser to overload and beamed myself out. Kinda makes Data's sacrifice really fucking stupid.
You've earned a friend in the Romulan Empire today, Captain.
A friend that was more than happy to watch the destruction of the Enterprise and the Federation until she figured out she was probably on the losing side, but sure, a friend.
You have the bridge number 1.
I'm gonna go and be mopey in my ready room because my morning is more important than all of your morning.
First time I saw Data, he was leaning against a tree in the holodeck trying to whistle. Funniest thing I ever saw.
Riker needs more funny memories in his life.
Apparently, the Romulans are interested in talking.
Well, I can't think of a better man for the job.
Saying this when there's a better man for the job literally in the same room, and that man is you.
Never saw the sun shining so bright.
I love how this movie is like, we're going to send you off on a sad note with Data dying, but also we'll give you another Data in case this movie makes so much money they had to bring the cast back for another one. This would have been like ending the Wrath of Khan with Spock's twin Spec showing up saying, live long and surprise, motherfuckers!
Clone? That's ridiculous.
Shinzon of Remus is offering us a chance to make ourselves stronger than ever before. It would be madness to reject it.
Madness.
Madness.
I have commanded men in battle.
I have been to the Great Wall of China. I have seen the pyramids of Egypt. I've even witnessed a grown man satisfy a camel.
It appears to be a robotic arm.
Where was it you graduated from again? Hmm? The University of Duh.
We're gonna try a barn swallow.
Praetor Shinzon?
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding.
I'm talking of the thing that makes us the same. Peace. We want peace.
Yeah, you say peace. I kind of think you mean the other thing.
It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix.
Fire at will!
Why should the rest of your crew have to die?
Shinzon, I don't think I ever told you about my first...
I have had enough of you!
I was just trying to keep my feet on the ground. And the force of that wind, I mean, you see, I'm trying desperately to keep my feet on the flooring. The airplane left the ground, and I couldn't hold my feet on them.